video for a while, and I don't know how it will turn out, but it's super important and significant to me in many ways because I have to start somewhere with kind of my experiences that have happened. And this would be a good place for me to start. Now, I'm not going to get into too much detail, but I am going to try to explain to you the process simply, quickly. I don't even know. We'll see where it goes. I could break it down into parts. But I wanted to talk about Dark Night of the Soul. For me, my experience, and what it felt like, so I could be able to share with people what happened to me when I fully activated my Kundalini. I struggle with making these videos because I don't want anyone to ever have to I don't want anyone to attach their experience with my experience, because each individual, their experience is going to be so individually tailored to themselves and their soul, and there's no two experiences that are the same. So remember that if you are having Kundalini activation. But I did want to go and talk about a little bit what it felt like for me for the first 10 months after this started happening. So for those of you that don't know, I lost my fiance in a very traumatic way, and I kind of want to talk about what happened immediately after this experience. So I'm going to do my best not to try to react emotionally when I'm speaking, and I'm going to try very hard not to get attached to the words that I'm speaking so I can just make this video. I remember, and I know a lot of people experience something of this sort, which is why I feel like it's important to talk about it and the things that can happen to you. And I just want to explain kind of what it felt like and how I'm still standing here or sitting here today. I remember. I remember when I was pregnant with my son, with him, and while I was pregnant, I kept getting these visions of somebody dying, and I saw myself falling down on the pavement. And I told him this. I'm like, and I kept thinking it was going to be from a car accident or from, one of our children or someone that was in my life. Or in one of our lives. So I played out all the events that could potentially happen in terms of each person dying, to try to kind of, I guess, get a grip on the situation for myself. And never, not even one time during my whole experience of being pregnant and through the birth, I thought the birth wouldn't make it, I thought something was going to happen during the birth, but it didn't. And out of all the events that my mind and my ego were trying to play out that could potentially happen, not once Not even once, for one split second, not even for, never one thought crossed in my mind that it would be him. And that was the thing where I think I was the hardest on myself, is because every experience that I took, it was me and him working through this. And never did I ever imagine that it was going to be him and that he wouldn't be there during this traumatic experience that was coming up physically. And I remember when my body, when I realized what happened, I still didn't know what happened. But when I realized that he was gone, I had fallen to the ground, and my entire being was ripped, it felt like, out of my body. And I know in terms of death, a lot of people may have experienced the same thing, but I wanted to talk briefly on the amount of love that we had for each other, pure love that still exists in an energetic way, and a pure form of love, and unconditional love. So through I want to say I didn't move my body for a very long time. Like, I would go very long periods without moving my body, no matter what my body needed. If my body went numb, or if I was thirsty, or whatever it may be that came up in my physical body, I did not move. One, I was unable and chose not to move any part of my body for very long periods of time, sometimes even days. And everything in that moment of learning what had happened, and what took place, my soul was literally trying to escape my body. So I was having outer body experiences, and my soul and my body were intuitively raising their vibration up, and I could feel Brian lowering his frequency at the same time, so we were able to meet kind of in the middle of where our energetic bodies would be at. And he would lower his vibration, I would higher my vibration, and I would do it through ways and experiences that came through intuition, and my body did things that my mind could not perceive. So my body was going into a crazy amount of breath. I was just allowing my consciousness to take over at that point, and my mind didn't have a say. My mind stopped thinking, and my body just was reacting strictly to what my higher self or my consciousness was doing. So there was no ego, involved or mind process. It was literally a process through consciousness and body, as if it had kicked in, everything had kicked in intuitively, and my mind didn't have a say because my mind was gone. And there was a connection from my consciousness, which is in my belief, just not the mind or not the ego. And I literally was feeling all sorts of activations that I've never had felt before in my entire life. So I was struggling with accepting what had happened. I was grieving. I was literally leaving my body. I quickly understood that there was a whole other world that existed that I was never truly in tune with. I was in tune with to some extent, that I knew it was a possibility, or it did exist because I would get glimpses throughout my journey that there was something more than this, what I am seeing in my physical reality. I always was in tune, but I never truly knew exactly what it was until this had happened, because I forced myself to see, so I could connect with him and I could continue to connect with him. And not only did I learn very quickly how to connect with him after he passed, but I've learned how to connect with guides. I've learned how to connect with the angelic realm or interdimensional beings on very many different levels, which have always been there, but I was not able to tune into through an energetic frequency, and I wasn't able to piece or decipher the things that were being shown to me in my mind through an energetic standpoint, or as in telepathy. I was learning all this. This is all new to me. So my external world had crumbled around me, and it no longer existed. So it didn't exist at all because nothing mattered. And I was completely in that moment through his death, pummeled. And I think a lot of people felt pretty defeated and pummeled because he was the most amazing person that I have ever met. And he always took the high road, and it was just absolutely such an honor to be anywhere in his presence. And so when this shifted for me, when this started occurring, the best way that I can describe it is, if everything's normal and you're walking in and you have a bag of groceries and you come out of your car and you're going to cook for your family and your family's coming home and you have to get things ready for your kids, and you are going to cook dinner and you're grabbing all the groceries out of your car, and you already know what you're going to prepare, and then you're thinking about what you need to, for your kids need to do for the next morning, and you're thinking about maybe the bill you have to pay, and all the things that are happening in your external world, and you're carrying in the groceries, and you're going into the door, and you fall. You fall into a hole that you never knew existed, that was in your front lawn. And you fall into this hole, and not only do you fall, but you crash. And your whole entire body shatters. Your mind shatters. Your body shatters. Everything you ever known, or any type of perception that you hold or in your head shatters. You shatter. And you're gone. You're gone. And you're down in this hole. And it's all dark. there's nothing around you. You don't even know, really, you're delusional because you don't know where you're at and you don't know what happened, and you're in shock. And you know up there in the world that you usually exist in is still going on, and people are trying to find you. Your loved ones are like trying to find you, and they don't know what happened to you, but you're down in this hole and you can't move, and your body's completely shattered and you can't get up. And you're forced to accept, one, the fact that every single bone in your body is broken. Every thought you ever thought was, for me, not true. And slowly I realized that I was not the body. And I was down in this dark hole for a very long time. And every once in a while, I looked up and I could actually see light through where I fell in. So and then it went away. But every once in a while, I would see the hole where I fell in, and I knew if I could make my way out, just back up to see my family again or be in that physical world, I would try to fight for that, And I didn't want to. So I laid there, plus I couldn't move. And then and as I lay there for, let's say, however many days, which felt like eternities, completely broken and shattered, my mind or my body and my consciousness started doing things I didn't know that it could do. So I started focusing on healing myself and my body. And I realized that there was this internal world that I had no idea that I was forced to see, because through that internal world was actually stronger energetic bonds and people in relationships that did not exist ever in the physical world, or that did exist that I could only tune into sporadically. And I saw a lot down there. So I saw specifically 6 angels that were around me at all times for probably 10 months. 6 angels were above me that I literally saw, and they were literally floating in a circle at all times around me, and I knew they were protecting me. It was a higher force that I couldn't explain that I knew that was protecting me. And then there was also a lot of demons, so it was an internal battle. When I'm talking about demons, I'm going to try to explain it to you the best that I can. So any thought as I was laying there that I would think that would be something such as fear, or anxiety, or grief, or anger, or hopelessness, or depression, or dread of having to live this existence without the love of my life, I would be pummeled in these emotions that were so strong where I physically couldn't move or breathe. And for every one of those emotions that I had, I saw entities attached to these lower level emotions, and they were holding me back. So the more of those emotions that I had, the more I would just be consumed down into this black hole. I mean, I'm already in the ground, but I would just go further and further into this black hole, and they were holding me back. They were holding me back from any light, but the angels were still there because there were 6 of them, and there were 6 angels. And then on top of the angels, there was also guides. I had guides that were with me. And then on top of that, there was interdimensional beings, and you can call them the same thing, but there were 3 different categories in the spirit world. So for me, which people can perceive this being different, there was different realms, and I was able to tap into the realms of this existence. And that was a big change. And everything I've ever thought and all my limited beliefs and perceptions were just shattered. And I was also spinning down even further, spiraling down into this black hole, because the more my grief, the more my sadness, the more it would feed these entities that were holding me back from me raising my Kundalini. But the angels were there and they existed, and it was a force field. And I realized that it was like one day at a time I could start healing my body to be able to get up, to maybe somehow find my way out of this hole that I had felt in. And as days come, I would start to feel that there would be like movement in my foot. And I thought, well, if I can move my foot, then there's a potential that I could move the rest of my body at some point if I still really focus on healing my body on a physical level. Because if I can just walk around in the dark, maybe I can get away from some of these entities that are drowning me and attacking me, because you know what? I'm living with them and they're there, and that's fine, because I had to learn how to exist with them holding me back. But the light was still there. The light was still there, and I had to ground down and find faith. And I had way more faith in the light because I saw what the light did when I was able to intuitively activate my Kundalini. It wasn't just gradually, it was literally all at once. It was literally all at once. So it was like being down on the ground with all my bones shattered, and slowly over time I could lift my body up. But now I could walk around this dark cave, and it was just, I'm hiding from the darkness, and but then I see that now that tunnel that I came down, there's a light, and I start to think of different ways that I can get back up the wall to get back up to the physical world that I have fallen from. And so I did all that I could, and as soon as I would get up, I would fall way back down and I would start over. And this happened several times. And one day I was able to come up and I was on the physical world. And not only was I just on the physical world that I had fallen from, but I was catapulted into another realm that was straight above. So it was like a tunnel going up into the light. This was when my Kundalini was fully activated. And when I was connecting with higher states of consciousness, and I was connected to interdimensional beings of love and light that were guiding me and teaching me how to, internally teaching me, like my inner guru that we talk about is your greatest teacher. For sure, when you tap into it, that's it. That's it. It's the only way. And that's what was happening. So everything that was happening to me was strictly through experiences. And I had to battle, because at any given time when I was down in the ground, I knew I couldn't control my body. My body had control over me. But when I was catapulted up into this other realm past the physical existence, into higher states of consciousness, my consciousness was in control of my body, and my mind was not in control of my body. So then here I am, and I was able to connect with Brian in the spirit world and angels and all different types of interdimensional beings. And I was quickly learning how to be telepathic, and I was quickly learning how to create energetic bonds in between the higher good of existence. And everything was okay. Everything was okay because everything was still there. And I knew that this wasn't real. For me, it was an illusion. Everything was an illusion. It was just an illusion. So I learned that it was quickly an illusion, and I was able to release any type of suffering. Now it was still there because this is what happened. As soon as my Kundalini was fully activated and I was connected, at the same time, since I was in training, like internal training, I would be just thrown back all the way back down into that black hole. And then I would be catapulted from that black hole all the way up past the physical reality into higher states of consciousness. So now I'm being ping-ponged between higher states of consciousness and the lowest of the low, like the most destructive realm that you could potentially be in as a human being, where you are suffering from when you're literally just done, and when you're suffering so much. And I couldn't believe what was happening, and therefore, for my experience, I keep skipping over the physical reality that I'm normally in because it didn't exist, you see. So I was either in higher states of consciousness, or I was down and I wasn't able to walk for days, or I had to crawl. Like I couldn't, it was suffering or bliss, because if I didn't have that energetic connection between Brian and the spirit world or interdimensional beings at that point, I had nothing left to live for. And it was a struggle, but every time I was thrown back down into that black hole, I had angels there to help me out, but I had to allow. So I had to allow myself to do it. I think I'm gonna stop here, and I'll make another part of this video later. But thank you guys for listening to the beginning of this. I love you guys all so much. Namaste.